Hey everybody. So in this video I want to throw a bunch of quantum mechanics at you, and then to me I'm always appreciative of having some sort of softer intro into that rather than just going straight into a subject like quantum mechanics. So I want to start this video off with essentially a story, and this is the story of Alice and the quantum computer. Once upon a time there was a young girl named Alice who was fascinated by computers. She loved to learn about how they worked and how she could use them to solve problems. One day, Alice was reading about quantum computers. She was amazed by the fact that quantum computers could solve problems that were impossible for classical computers to solve. However, Alice was disappointed by the fact that quantum computers were still in their early stages of development and were not yet available to the public. Alice decided that she wanted to find a way to simulate quantum functions on classical computers. She knew that it would be a difficult task, but she was determined to succeed. Alice began by researching the different techniques that could be used to simulate quantum functions on classical computers. She learned about the quantum Fourier transform and other advanced mathematical concepts. After months of hard work, Alice finally succeeded in developing a pseudo-quantum algorithm for searching a sorted list. She was thrilled that she had been able to simulate a quantum function on a classical computer. Alice's discovery was a major breakthrough in the field of quantum computing. It showed that it was possible to simulate quantum functions on classical computers, even though quantum computers were not yet available to the public. Alice's story is an inspiration to us all. It shows that we can overcome any challenge if we're determined to succeed. It also shows that code can be used to explore complex concepts and make new discoveries. So Alice's story is fictional, but it leads us into what we want to talk about today, which is simulating quantum functions. So first of all, thank you everyone and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about how we can explore complex concepts such as quantum mechanics in a simpler way, in this instance through code, and even simulate quantum functions using classical computers and code. We're going to do this by looking at a pseudo-quantum algorithm for searching a sorted list. This algorithm is inspired by a quantum algorithm for the same purpose, but it can be implemented on a classical hardware using a technique called the quantum Fourier transform on a discrete Fourier transformation, or QFT-DFT. And I understand that that's really long, and this code might be a little overwhelming to people up front. So just taking a step back here. So essentially what we're trying to do with this algorithm is simulate the difference between a quantum search and a regular search. So let's pretend that you have a list. You have a list of items, and there's 5 items on the list. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I want you to find item 3. The classical example that you can do to perform that would be called a linear search. And linear search is very straightforward. You just go from 1 to 2. 1, that's not it. Then you go to 2, that's not it. Then you go to 3, that's it. Okay, so then you stop your search in that instance, right? If I had wanted 5, then you go down to 5, except and then if I had wanted 1, you would stop at 1. And then so that's how a linear search functions. You could also do a regressive search, where essentially you search for individual term, but it's that same type of process where it's going through that decision tree, right? 1, 2, it's always linear. And then so what the difference is between a traditional linear search and what we're simulating here with this search. And again, I want to highlight and point out, this is a simulation of the quantum function. It's not actually performing the quantum function in this instance. It's simulating the quantum function, which is cool still, because we get to see how that works. But so essentially so in this instance, if we look through this code and what it's doing, it's pretty cool, right? So in this, we have our 5 numbers, which are 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9 in this instance, as opposed to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? And then in this instance, so we would do, we can pretend that they're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 as well. And then what we want to do is figure out which one of these is the key. And then rather than doing that linear search, is it 1, is it 2, is it 3, is it 4, we essentially the algorithm throws all of them in the air, and then whichever one actually lands on the floor is the correct answer. And like that's essentially what this algorithm is doing, right? Like it's kind of confusing. Well, quantum mechanics is kind of confusing, which is like why I like this type of simulation and simulating exactly what's going on with that in code, right? Because like what I just talked about is like, I mean, it's kind of a complex concept, like to actually understand like what the heck is like you throw like 5 numbers in the air and then whichever one lands on the ground, that's the one that you're going to pick. But I mean, that's what this function is doing, and that's what how the function works. If you have it on like on a quantum level, right? So, and then in this instance, it's returning like it's essentially telling you like, hey, I found the key. Here's the key by doing this function of throwing them in the air, of this simulated function in this instance of throwing these numbers in the air and then catching one on the ground. And then I have kind of a more in-depth explanation here of how does it work. So the pseudo-quantum search algorithm works by exploiting the properties of the quantum Fourier transform. The quantum Fourier transform is a mathematical operation that can be used to transform a quantum state from one basis to another. In the case of the search algorithm, we use the quantum Fourier transform to transform the input state from the computational basis to the Fourier basis. The Fourier basis is a basis in which the states are represented by sine waves of different frequencies. Once the input state has been transformed to the Fourier basis, we can measure the state to get the output. The output will be a state in the computational basis that corresponds to the frequency that was measured. The frequency that's measured is proportional to the index of the key in the sorted list. This is because the quantum Fourier transform has the property of mapping states that are close together in the computational basis to states that are close together in the Fourier basis. The pseudo-quantum search algorithm is just one example of how we can simulate quantum functions on classical computers. There's other examples too that can be utilized to illustrate examples of quantum functions. And so the next thing that I want to show you, and how we'll end this video, is with the we're going to show off simulated quantum entanglement. Quantum entanglement is essentially like a really straightforward process in which you have like two entities or two states or two pieces of matter that are essentially far away from each other, and then by affecting one in one state, then you can impact the other state because they're essentially intertwined. The two states are intertwined and like across vast distances is what quantum entanglement is. Regardless of the distance, object A is related to object B, or piece of matter A is related to piece of matter B. And then so in this instance, it's very straightforward, essentially as to how we are simulating that process. Is essentially what we're saying is that we have a group of numbers that are either 0 or 1, right? And then so within this particular matrix, within our gates, we're essentially simulating the possibility of numbers that can exist between 0 and 1, and then so it's either the result that we'll get back is either a 0 or a 1, depending on the entanglement of the numbers that we're simulating in that instance. And then so within quantum entanglement, essentially what happens is, again, if we make a modification to one of the numbers, then it impacts the other one, right? And then so in this instance, what we're doing within this is we're essentially simulating we're simulating that overall quantum entanglement process by creating an entangled state between the two qubits and then measuring each qubit in the computational basis. This particular code that we're looking at here, it works first by creating what's called a Hadamard gate, and the Hadamard gate is a quantum gate that puts a qubit into an equal superposition of, again, that either 0 or 1. And then the code then applies the Hadamard gate to the first qubit. And then this puts the first qubit into an equal superposition of either the 0 or the 1 state. And then essentially it does the same thing for the second gate, or what's called the C0 gate. And then it's essentially the C0 gate that flips the second qubit if the first qubit is a 1. And so if this one is a 1, then the second qubit will also be a 1. It'll flip also to 1. And then same thing. It finally measures each qubit on the computational basis, and the output of the code produces two random numbers, either a 0 or a 1. And then if the two numbers are the same, then that means that the two qubits were entangled. If the two numbers are different, then it means that the two qubits weren't entangled. And then, so this is really simple simulation. In this instance, in our simulation, it's always going to return that they're entangled, just because this is how the code is working. In this particular instance, and in this simple simulation, it's always going to return back like the combination of 1 1, which is what we want, right? Rather than 1 0. But we could adjust this and then simulate that as well. But this gives you kind of like a very straightforward idea, like everything that would be involved in the actual quantum process, and then we're just running this quantum process on classical computers, so we can't actually do the quantum process. It's the only thing that's missing here. But it gives us essentially like the ability to simulate it, to break it down, to see how it works. And then, so for me overall, I don't know, for some people that, like, if you don't understand how to code overall, this might be like more confusing, but to me this makes it less confusing when I'm thinking of quantum mechanics, like a lot less confusing, right? Because I can actually like put actual terms to it and actually like see like something physical that's going on within it. Like within quantum mechanics, we're oftentimes talking about like kind of like weird processes and yeah, like weird things that like it's hard to actually like explain and to actually like quantify to someone, or even wrap your own head around. And then so by being able to simulate quantum functions just makes that a little bit easier. So if you like this type of content, please like and subscribe. Thank you very much.